Live from the TVA, this is Derailed Trains of Thought. Hello, Tim.
Hello, Nick, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm a little disoriented because the 60s office we're in right now, I feel like I've seen 3 versions of myself walk by.
Oh, well, but you can tell they have on their jumpsuits.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a variant, so I don't think that's you.
Okay, good.
You're the real one.
I'm the real, I think.
Okay.
As far as I know, I'm the real one.
Okay. Yeah, it's very bureaucratic here, which is a little different than I expected.
Yeah, I mean, I dig their interior design. It's very unique and orange.
Yes.
And that kind of old school charm thing.
Though there are some people walking around with those sticks. I think we should probably stay out of their way.
Oh, yeah. Anytime you see a security guard like that, yeah, you don't want to mess with them.
No,
sure.
but maybe we can hop into some office somewhere.
Yeah, maybe there's a room in the library we can chill in for a little bit to record our podcast.
Yeah.
Which, welcome, folks, to Derailed Trains of Thought.
Your premier podcast on storytelling for the creator and consumer.
We talk about all manner of storytelling here. My name is Timothy Deal.
My name is Nick Hayden, and I'm the host today. Tim, how's your summer been?
Pretty good. We got back from vacation a little while ago. Janelle and I did our first solo. I guess we had our honeymoon, but we felt like we were real adults. We went camping, and we stayed at Airbnb a little bit up in Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Very nice.
Very fun. Visited Mackinac Island, which I hadn't been there since I was 7.
Gorgeous place.
Gorgeous place. You know, a lot of touristy places can look tacky, but there's something about the ones that can manage to really stay beautiful and attractive. And Hilton Head Island is one, which is why we love going there. And Mackinac Island is another.
Yes.
You just go there and you feel like, oh man, if only we were commonplace areas would be able to focus on maintaining the beauty of their home as much as places like this can.
Did you take the bike ride around the island?
Well, we took it around half the island. Unfortunately, they had about another half of it closed off for road repairs or something.
Interesting.
Yeah. One of the fun things about Mackinac, folks, is that there are no cars allowed there. So all travel is by bike or by horse-drawn carriage, basically. And a lot of people bike, so we did do a lot of biking. So we didn't get to go the entire circumference, but we also went into the island a little bit, and so it was fun.
Here's a real question: do you do 2 bikes or tandem?
We did 2 bikes.
I've done tandem before.
Have you?
2 bikes? Yeah, I think so.
Did you do it with Natasha?
Yeah, I believe so.
I have never.
I've been there
done
a number of
tandem.
times, but one at a time not a number, but 2
More
or
than
3
one.
times. More than one. Yeah.
Okay.
And we were off out west for about 10 days, took a road trip, kind of in reminiscent of my wife and I's initial year road trip out.
When you were newlyweds, you're
Yeah.
a bit more adventurous than Janelle and I.
Yeah, I don't know. Natasha has very fond memories of it, but we both know that it was pretty tense during parts of it in real life. Yeah, because we just camped all the whole time, and we were gone 3 weeks, so...
Yeah, that's hardcore.
Anyways, but we just went to Yellowstone. Lots of driving with the kids. Showed them.
This time you just went as far as Yellowstone.
Yeah, and it was a lot. It was a lot of fun, and the kids got to see all sorts of. They've never been past the Mississippi, so
yeah,
lots of different landscapes out there
for sure.
And
yeah,
everything.
I was impressed by Natasha's Instagram pictures. It looks like you guys got to do a variety of things. I mean, it wasn't just. I mean, you did sightseeing and
we did. Yeah, we tried to stop at least a couple places every day, even though we had to also travel a ridiculous long way just to get.
Anywhere.
Yeah. That's just the West for you.
Yeah, exactly. At least in nowadays, you kids have got books and video games. And...
Oh, yeah. We went unplugged, though. We didn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You didn't bring a Switch or anything?
Nope.
Wow, you're real hardcore then.
Yeah, they enjoyed it. Yeah.
Cool.
It's funny because my son's usually a big reader, but he hardly read at all because he doesn't like reading in the car.
Oh, yeah.
But they didn't get very bored. They had a lot of fun.
Wow.
But anyways, folks, that's why we had no official episode in July.
Yes. I hope you enjoyed the brief sidetrack. Actually, that just went out today. So it's still July as we're recording, but we know that I won't be able to edit this, have that quick of a turnaround. I've still got weekly hijacks to edit and other stuff. So,
well, Tim, I guess we should go ahead and get to Story School. All right, folks. This was one of the few times I kind of had a title with an idea that we were going to do for Story School, and we kind of, in our notes, wrote this as Destiny, Free Will, and the Multiverse.
This is a big, wide-ranging topic, I feel.
Yeah, so our idea, just to preface kind of our big idea, is just to kind of talk about how fate and multiverse and characters' free will all interact in stories, which actually comes up way more often than you would think.
It's becoming more and more of a big deal in superhero. I mean, looks like a lot of Marvel Phase 4 is going to deal with multiverse stuff.
And then in some of the video games you guys, we don't play even that much, but it shows up a decent amount too.
It does. And
anime. And
particularly, yeah, it seems like Japan has a fascination with particularly like the defying fate ideas. Now, these ideas, you may say, what was it again?
Destiny, free will, and the multiverse.
In some ways, they seem like disparate things. Okay, maybe Destiny and free will are more clearly related, but how does multiverse fit into this? And when we were talking about this, I realized we were kind of coming at this from different directions. In my mind, because of Loki and other things, multiverses or an alternate universes is something that's been on my mind to talk about for a while. And in my point, how it kind of messes up some of free will stuff, but you were coming at it from the opposite direction.
And I came from the direction that if you defy fate, then suddenly in many stories it breaks off timelines and you get a multiverse. And we'll use illustrations here.
So I feel like a lot of these ideas are going to be intertwined. And we've talked a little bit about fate before when we discussed The Chosen One. I forgot to look up what episode number that was, but it
was a while ago. Yeah, I don't remember.
It was a while ago, back in the 70s or so.
In 1970.
1970, wow. Yes, we were. No,
that's a different show with time travel. But anyway, I thought we'd start with just an observation I've had about these stories of fighting fate. Again, the common one, we've mentioned this in other podcasts, is your Oedipus Rex. You're there's a prophecy. That's going to be your destiny. Oh, I'm going to try to get around it. I'm going to go kill my son or leave him to expose. And then it happens anyways.
Actually, episode 67, that's the one I'm thinking of. Okay. The Once and Future podcast.
The Once and Future podcast.
That was about the Chosen One, but also about prophecy and how it's hard to defy your fate and all that kind of stuff.
And that's where we mentioned a lot of this Oedipus Rex stuff.
Right.
And so it seems that for most of, at least my knowledge of older stories, usually it's fate something that you fight against, but you can't really beat. The whole man versus fate is Job, it's Greek tragedies, it's Stranger Than Fiction, where, in
a much more modern version
modern sense. Lost in season 5 is very much and even 6 is are we going to conform to what has already happened or what I'm destined for? I mean, 5 is about, can we change the future?
Did whatever happened?
Yeah.
Do they mean that?
And season 6 is very much about, am I going to succumb to this idea of destiny, like with Jack and other people, that I've been avoiding since the show started.
Uh-huh.
Except it seems that we're moving, and I think that's just how culture changes, into more stories about defying fate, and you can actually do it. Xenoblade, a video game it was for the Wii U, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But it's for the Wii, it was for the Wii, but now it's for the Switch.
Oh, you mean Xenoblade Chronicles?
Chronicles was the first one, not the second.
I think it was a Wii U. I want to say it was a Wii U thing, I think.
But I don't know. Anyways, it's on the Switch. That's where I played it. Has a lot, the Minato shows you the future, and then you can do things, and they keep trying to we can defy our fate, and we choose our own future. Free will wins.
Uh-huh.
Loki's a little bit about that.
Well, and actually, while we're on subject of video games, we'll get to Loki in a sec.
Yeah.
Even Final Fantasy VII Remake added this aspect of it, which originally was it's the original story from the original Final Fantasy VII up to this point. Except they added these new things that are kind of trying to make sure that the story of the game stays in the same story as the original Final Fantasy VII. And eventually the characters like Aerith brings up, these guys are like the guardians of destiny. The live stream is determined how some of these things are supposed to be. But we got to take out Sephiroth now. So let's defy. So they wind up fighting destiny, and it leaves the ending very ambiguous of where is the rest of the, because it's part 1 of this remake.
Yeah.
So we're all where is this going to go from here? Is it going to be radically different, or is this just going to be mostly the same? No one really knows.
If you blow the nuke up, does it change the future or not? Random Lost reference, guys. Not random, but
here I thought we wouldn't actually get very much Lost in this episode.
I had to do it. But anyways, I think that shift is in some ways attached to this change in culture that we're very much about we can define who we are. And so the idea that there is a force or a God or something that dictates stuff. I mean, Wheel of Time is very much, there's prophecy and he has to fulfill it. And there's no way really to escape it. And that's part of the wrestling. And we've talked about it other times. So anyways, that's kind of the fate and free will. And then the multiverses come into all this.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about, before we move on to multiverse stuff. This is a thorny thing for me as a Christian because the tendency of my belief is to lean heavily on the Arminian side of things, Arminian as opposed to Calvinism, meaning that God does give us some free choice. It's not just strictly predestination, you're either saved or you're not saved, that God gives us the choice to accept him or not.
Yeah.
But I do have to recognize at the same time that the Bible does talk about God being sovereign. There are portions of in Romans talking about for those he foreknew, he predestined and all this kind of stuff. So it's tricky to figure out the balance. And there's a saying that I saw somewhere that I've always liked, that life is like a card game. Predestination is the hand that you're dealt. Free will is how you choose to play your cards.
Okay.
That's kind of how I've always kind of resolved the tension in my mind. It's not necessarily a theological thing, but I think it adds an element of truth to it, at least in a way that works for me.
Yeah, I've always reconciled in my head. I to be honest, I'd probably lean a little more Calvinist than Arminian, though there's good arguments on all sorts of levels on both sides. Guys, do you guys know that you came for a theological Bible discussion tonight?
Well, I mean, I feel like we would be not doing this conversation full justice if we didn't delve into some of these things a little bit.
But I guess to me, as a writer, it's that sort of like, as I'm writing, the characters are doing what they're doing, but I also have a plan of what they're going to do. And so there's this given, again, this is not theological either, but I feel like some of these things like Oedipus Rex, like The Hobbit, where, Gandalf is like, oh, you thought you were so special? This didn't all happen just for your sake. And like basically that
right.
Bilbo made all these choices, except everything happened that way because there was a purpose behind it.
Yeah.
And that's all I really need. I can get into the arguments with people about the finer details, but I think fiction is a very interesting platform where you can actually sometimes see that where the two sides of the coin meet.
Right. I mean, for me, ideally, free will and destiny is kind of a dance. They somehow go together. Like, it is both your choice to do the things that happen, but God is also orchestrating things. Some people would say that, well, that means you don't have any choice at all. It's like, I don't think so. There's been way too many times when I'm trying to figure out what to do, and I can be open to saying, hey, God, show me what I should be doing here. And he'll be like, no, you decide.
Yeah.
So it's like, so yeah, that's
when anything. Well, the free destiny and free will, free destiny, free willy. With the free will predestination thing is that you got to define your terms. I don't know that even most hardcore Calvinists say that everything's you choose is forced upon you as much as whether you can save yourself.
Yeah.
Well, but anyway, we can
it depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah.
Babylon Bee has poked fun at Calvinists.
Well, yeah,
that kind of stuff.
Yes, completely.
Anyway,
so straight up, and we talked about some of this with the episode 67, is that there's a lot of very interesting room to discuss free will and whatever sense that the creator brings of predestination, fate, God, aliens, whatever the reigning force, Time Lord is. But it does seem that in modern stories, more and more, there's this sort of let's overthrow the authority that's dictating what I should do.
Another interesting example of this from Final Fantasy. In Final Fantasy 15, it ends in some tragedy because Noctis, the main character, his role is essentially to take on a lot of he has to die in order to defeat the darkness that's going on, this scourge that's infected the planet, essentially. I'm summarizing a lot of what happens, but now then they at one point they had DLC downloadable content planned that they wound up putting into a novelization, which radically changes the story for the purpose of having an alternate, quote unquote, happier ending, where it's not so much that this was just the way that the world worked, that this is what needed to happen, as it was like the gods and Bahamut in particular just decided this is the way he wanted it to happen to punish humanity, and which would have turned the sacrifices that not just Noctis, but some of the other characters would have made into just being kind of pawns and tools of this. And basically the novelization turned into like defy that fate sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that kind of ruined in some ways, like, yeah, he had, I mean, again, the dance between destiny and free will. I liked how the original story went because it was a very meaningful sacrifice that, yeah, Noctis was following a plan, but he learned how to grow into that plan. He became that person that needed to take this on, and it ruined the tragedy.
I mean, that's sort of the stranger than fiction. He grows into what the author is going to write.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
although, I mean, in a certain way, I guess you could also say that he did change his fate a little bit because he was originally going to die, but then the author is like, well, wait a minute. He knows he's going to die. This actually makes him a better person.
Yeah.
Shouldn't I try to save him?
Yeah.
So,
that's true.
So
it's been long since I've seen that. Yeah.
But anyway.
So anyways, that interaction, and then you throw on this multiverse thing.
Yeah.
Well, because now when you make decisions, alternate universes get made. I mean, that's, if you don't know, in multiverse, there's lots of different, I guess, running ideas, but the idea is that basically there's alternate versions of yourself.
Different dimensions.
From different choices that were made at different levels of...
I mean, at least in the version of multiverse that this is coming from. Now, some multiverses just, it's not necessarily made off of choice. It could just be random circumstance that create these alternate,
well, that's true too. Yeah.
Alternate versions of yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what we're talking about with alternate.
Like Chrono Cross,
realities.
which I have a rant in some older episode. But the whole...
Actually, I think it might be in that same episode.
Is it that same? Oh, you're right. It is in that same episode.
Yeah, 67. It's a good one, folks. Go listen to it.
But you go between two different dimensions, and it branched from where basically you should have died in one and you were saved. Because later on you find there's a city that keeps track of fate and makes things happen like it should. And I think there's probably some overturning fate in this whole thing. But anyways, so that was the decision there. In, say, Loki, the multiverse is basically, well, pruned away because anytime someone make a decision that shouldn't be made...
They basically scrub it.
They edit it, yeah.
Try to keep it all consistent.
Spoiler. If you're not watched Loki, go watch it if you want. If you like that sort of stuff.
But yeah, that rule may change by the end of at least this first season. They have announced they're going to do a second season. But yeah, I'm going to lay some more cards on the table about multiverse thing. Do you remember when we did our Children of the Wells roundtable? Aaron Brosman mentioned that time travel was becoming one of his storytelling pet peeves.
Yes.
Because in his words, there's so many ways you can do it wrong.
Yes, that's true.
And he said that despite the fact that Back to the Future is one of his favorite movies, I have become to feel in recent years that multiverse is something that I don't particularly enjoy because I don't like the ramifications that certain stories will bring out of it.
So explain.
And I'll preface also with saying that doesn't mean that it can't be done well. I think Loki did it really well, but it has some inherent problems with it. For one thing, the entire fact, let's just start where we've been talking about in terms of like free will stuff. So if a whole multiverse gets made, or if a whole alternate world gets made because of a different choice that someone made, does that mean that all the souls and all the people from this branch world only exist because I chose to go left somewhere instead of going right?
That's a Doctor Who episode.
I mean, yeah, it is. And it's interesting as a mind game sort of thing. But if you're putting into the flesh and blood of an actual realized story, it raises lots of red flags for me. Because like that seems so unfair to, okay, they're NPCs, who cares? But like, I don't know. I don't like the idea of like creating whole people just because one person made a different decision. Once Upon a Time ventured into this territory.
With the
Wish Realm.
Oh boy!
And it created so many problems, particularly because they changed the rules of how they were going to treat this whole idea. Initially, like Regina actually wound up killing this alternate version of Snow White and Prince Charming, thinking that they weren't real
because they were alternate. Because the main timeline is a real one in some of these things. And all the extra ones are like shadows or fake or
fakes
dream
or something.
Or whatever. Yeah.
And then later they changed like, no, that actually had actual consequences. Like she actually killed Snow White and now her son is out for revenge. And like, that's That's terrible.
Yeah, exactly. And I think maybe this is a problem. Storytellers will start with the multiverse because it's kind of fun. Oh, it's fun to see an alternate version of this one or this thing. And it's a nice storytelling device. But then if you use it very long, it gets really messy very quickly unless you have very firm rules. Once Upon a Time didn't always have very firm rules about things.
Yeah.
For instance, the sort of alternate dimension things work really well in, like, say, Person of Interest would have episodes where the computer would run through scenarios.
Sure.
And then you're like, okay, it's an alternate version of what could have happened, but it's not real yet.
Yes. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 or 3 episodes of that, and I guess in theory that's what Doctor Strange does in Avengers.
Oh.
Or in Infinity War, I guess is when he does it.
Infinity War, yeah. When
Is that he basically runs the numbers.
Scenario, yeah, basically to find out what's the one way that we can actually win this thing.
And so in theory, assuming there's one timeline, you figure out here's what we need to do so that he doesn't win, and then they do it. Now, if you apply to the multiverse way, then what you're saying is that every other timeline except the one we watched, Thanos wins.
Yeah, and that's kind of
problematic because then what you're saying is that, yay, we saved one timeline, which is like 0.01% of the entire existence, and all the rest of them are under darkness.
Yeah.
Which is not what, no one thinks like that. I don't know if that's what they were implying there.
But it is an inherent problem. I mean, it's kind of the unintended consequences thing. Kind of similar in some ways to when we talked about death, how sometimes some creators use death as a way to like make the audience care, but sometimes it can have the opposite effect and make the audience not care. Example, I'm probably one of the few comic book nerdy types in America who did not fall head over heels in love with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the animated film. Don't get me wrong, beautiful, really cool art style, fun characters, but the film lost some connection for me when a really cool version of Peter Parker died in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That immediately for me was like, I'm not interested in a world where a good Peter Parker dies.
Yeah.
Like this was a great guy. I'm like, this is obviously not my Peter Parker. I'm not, why should I care about anything else that happens in this universe?
I guess it's sort of like, as a story device, that's what most people use it for. It's like, oh, we got to bring in Spider-Ham.
And like I said, there was a lot. I love the creativity of some of these alternate Spider-Men. So when it comes to like just goofy multiverse shenanigans or different dimensions, I'm okay with that as long as you don't take it too seriously. Like Phineas and Ferb did this pretty well in their movie Across the Second Dimension. That's just silly. It's a lot of fun. I don't have a problem with that. The problems come sometimes with the more invested you get into some of the unintended consequences.
Then suddenly it's like trying to care for, I mean, like, humans aren't really meant to even, even with all the world news, we can't really even handle all the news that comes in. Then you're like, but let's multiply that by infinity.
Right.
And then you're like, so either you have to stop caring at all about the lines you don't care about, or you just like, he dies. It's basically like, well, he died here and here and here, but who cares because he's still alive in these 7.
Yeah. I was reading some this afternoon, knowing we're going to be talking about this, about the cartoon Rick and Morty.
Okay, yeah.
Which is basically all about this interdimensionality exploration.
Yeah.
Like, I guess the cartoon started off as like a parody of Back to the Future.
Okay.
And then it became something else. But Rick, the mad scientist guy, basically has become an alcoholic because all his interdimensional travel has just kind of made him very nihilistic.
Yeah.
Because, like, who cares if I die? There's like a million other versions of me.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Like, nothing matters because everything else is just a copy of yourself. So, I mean, that's, again, it's unintended consequences. But at the same time, in some ways, the people who really espouse multiverse, alternate dimensions as a scientific idea, I think spins out of like a belief in Big Bang evolution.
Well, and that you need an explanation for basically our Goldilocks universe without God.
Yes. I mean, like, if we have this amazing world that's spun out by chance, well, given infinite chances, you're going to have an infinite number of other universes that sprung out.
Which I got to throw in right here that I listened to a podcast with one of the intelligent design guys wrote the God hypothesis. I've not read the book yet, but the podcast was about him and his book. And someone asked him what about the multiverse theory? He's like, well, the problem is in order to make it work, you need a mechanism for making universes that would have to be as finely tuned. And where does that come from?
Yeah.
So even scientifically, it doesn't, at least according to him, I've not read the book, doesn't work out.
Yeah. If you have something that can make that is so finely tuned to create one universe, how is it going to make others?
Yeah, you gotta have a universe making mechanism.
Yeah.
But anyways, so what we have here is this deep dilemma in that on one hand, in humorous, lighthearted moments, it's fun to see, oh, we got Spider-Ham. Oh, it's fun to see what would have happened. It's a what if.
Yes.
And comics like Multiverse, I think, because they're always doing what ifs. Like, I mean, was a whole series like What If in Marvel.
Sure.
You know, because as we've said, it's hard to change characters permanently in comic books. Mm-hmm. So you try new
spins
in
remixes,
a different comic line so that you don't touch the main one. And then someone gets the idea, oh, wouldn't it be fun these two meet?
Yeah.
And then suddenly you have Marvel with their 20,000 universes. You know, the main one is 616. That's the main comic one. But then there's the MCU version, and then there's.
Yeah.
I read almost the whole run of Exiles, which is basically sliders for X-Men.
Right. I will say the one multiverse story that I did enjoy the epic scale of, probably the only time is the famous DC story Crisis on Infinite Earths. I mean, that's just a cool, like, the stakes they made for that, some of the characters and settings and things that happened, and it had a profound impact on the DC universe comics at that time. So I do like that story. However, every time DC tried to replicate that ever since was a law of diminishing returns.
What do you think? And maybe, I was thinking through this, maybe the best use of multiverse is when some person from one universe goes into another. Because when it's personal, you're still caring about that. It's when it becomes all of them. Like,
yeah.
I didn't watch a lot of Sliders, but they go to another world, they try to fix things, and they care about that world on there, and then move on to another one. And like that doesn't bother me as much because almost like it's basically like going to different planets, except
sure.
Not.
I guess
as long as there's not a lot of interaction. The interaction is unusual.
Not a lot of interaction, and in some ways, even just. The way I prefer to do, rather than having alternate dimensions that are like just a photocopy but slightly different than ours, I just think the idea of alternate worlds is inherently more interesting. Once Upon a Time did this for a while. You know, you've got the Enchanted Forest realm where Snow White and them are, and then Wonderland is a completely different place, and I don't remember, Neverland I think was a completely different place. I mean, and this is the C.S. Lewis Narnia way of doing things.
Yeah.
We have Earth, we have Narnia. There was the wood between the worlds that like connected like all these other worlds that you never actually even got to see, aside from Charn, I think, is the one in Magician's Nephew. But I just think that is so inherently more interesting. Sure, there are similar things in there, but it's not the people. It's not the people. And I think that's where the problem comes for me. I feel like, and again, this is coming from a Christian perspective where I think God is endlessly creative.
Yeah. I
don't see why he would choose to make just another world that looks just like ours, but with like a version of me that is blonde instead of brunette.
Well, what it be made, I mean, in some ways is a world that doesn't have God in charge, but has people. So I can make a choice and I run a universe.
Yeah.
The universe literally runs around me.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting point. Yeah. Yeah.
This is my story.
Bobby's world.
Bobby's world. What do you feel about Holodeck, Matrix, Shield when they were inside the whatever, where most of it's virtual?
I feel like that's a different storytelling thing because it is, it's an alternate world, but you're not saying like all these other worlds exist because of quantum physics or something like that.
I guess they're not. I mean, like in Holodeck, what was it called in Shield?
Oh man, I'd recognize it as soon if one of us said it.
Radcliffe made it, and
yeah, and I know exactly what you're talking about.
Because you had the alternate fit.
Is it the grid? No, that's Tron.
But I guess in some ways, what's nice about those is that also the people aren't ensouled. They're not real people, except for a handful of them.
They're just virtual recreations. I mean, that's its own interesting. It's its own interesting sci-fi thing where like how far along does a fake person how do they develop a soul? But that's like a whole different issue.
And science, and science fiction goes on different scales of that. Because I mean, that's a whole like, do androids dream electric sheep problem?
Right.
Are robots, or I suppose the whole Battlestar Galactica problem. But,
what does it really mean to be human? That kind of thing.
And that's a different issue. Yeah, we talked about that with Doubles, I guess, in that episode.
Framework.
The framework.
That's what it was called in Shield. Anyway.
So this is half related, but going with choices and spins. So I've been writing this choose your own adventure story for my brother for a project of his. I won't get into how that works at this moment. If you like crypto cards, go to atomichub.com and go to NFT story cards and you can
Go from there.
Go from there. But that's a different podcast. But I have found it more difficult than I thought to write a choose your own adventure. Because the problem is you make choices and then the character, then you have to write what happens both ways. And it's hard to say this character's developing, at least the way I wrote it.
Yeah.
You know, it becomes like, well, which one is better? Which is, you know, that sort of, I guess, that guiding principle that when you write a story, this is what the characters are doing and growing, and it kind of dissipates, and it's really weird.
Yeah.
For me, at least. Now, as I got farther on, I've kind of found, here's the thread if I had written the story this way, and this is the thread I've written. But early on, it was just like, okay, what's interesting about? I mean, I think the reader hopefully will find it more interesting than writing it. Just felt like, well, if these are all three choices, and they're all supposed to be interesting, then why make one over the other as a creative decision?
Sure. Yeah.
So as we get closer to the end and I start killing off timelines, so to speak,
yeah.
then it becomes like, okay, this was the story or this was a story. But it's from a creative point of view, at least the way I work, which is usually with a loose outline and then letting the characters talk to me. It's very weird.
Yeah.
And I think it's almost like the creator version of the multiverse for the consumer.
Interesting. I mean, I guess a game designer would say, no, you're just giving the player agency. I mean, probably, ideally, when your players play through this thing, they're going to put themselves in the shoes of the person and make choices accordingly.
Which I think, I have nothing wrong with choosing an adventure. Like, I'm not saying it's, but the way I write, it was
a
very different different mental space, because normally I have because you want a story for me for everything's there for a purpose. But then if there's two or three options that happens afterwards, then what was the purpose of again, it's more of a mental thing for me. And I know some people probably love writing choose an adventure, but you can be like, this will happen, or you'll die if you do this, or and it's been kind of fun as it got farther on to see sort of the different endings. I still have sort of like 3 or 4 things that are like main goals, and he kept trying to get them in different methods. And so as I've written, I found out how to do it. But it was an interesting...
Sure.
It's like trying to write a multiverse in some ways.
Sure. We'll give a little bit more credit to Loki here. I mean, the jury's still out in some ways about how Marvel is going to how I'm going to feel about their multiverse.
As they implement it.
Yeah, because it definitely feels like I wouldn't be surprised they're doing a What If animated series soon. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some connections to this.
Oh, that's true.
To this whole thing. And of course, the next Doctor Strange movie is called Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
Which I do like that title, but we'll see how the consequences of these recent shows are play into it. But the other fun thing about the series was just the fact that here you had a Marvel series exploring these very existential ideas about, Loki was questioning, does anyone except people here have free will? And what does this all mean? And of course, they came to some agnostic conclusions, which these shows tend to do. But it's still an enjoyable discussion.
And it's interesting that, they focus in on how does this Loki, and actually some other Lokis, change. Like, in some ways, he's the best of the Lokis. Like, he's the one who actually made the most twist towards good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that's the danger of multiverse, too. Sometimes the one you follow tends to be the prime.
Yeah.
Like all the other ones, we still play the other ones as if they were lesser versions.
True, yeah.
Like, none of the other Lokis, except maybe for Sylvie, is considered
an important
Loki.
Yeah.
And so multiverse, I mean, the storytelling convention is still, the story I'm telling is the most important version of this world. It always is.
Yeah.
Whether it is or not. I mean, but then you're making a moral choice. You're saying that the other ones are still basically shadows.
Yeah. Which, I get, that's a whole argument against it.
We can't help but pick we're telling the most important version. You inherently downgrade
everyone else.
You just do.
Yeah, that is interesting. And again, like I said, this jury's a little out still. They still didn't completely, even at the end of this, answer all the questions I had about how all this worked. You kind of had to guess about how some of the smoothing overworked. Like, for example, I was trying to figure out if the idea is, when someone becomes a variant and then they scrub it and clean it, I think we had speculated that they must somehow, when they do that light thing, it resets something. They create a new person to fulfill the role of what the original person who left the timeline went off to do. that creates a problem in our Avengers story because Loki took the Tesseract, and because he disappeared, that meant that Steve Rogers and Tony in Avengers Endgame had to go farther back in the past. If they just kind of clean up that mess, it's like, oh no, here's Loki. He's back on track to go off and do the rest of what we originally saw Loki do. Then what happened? Where did the original Tesseract go?
And it's weird because they kind of talked around like, oh, that they were supposed to do that time travel thing. Like that was the one.
Yeah.
One purpose.
Yeah. So anyway,
and that's inherent. Well, we've had discussions, I think, on the podcast, but certainly off that the whole time travel thing in Endgame's
little wonky.
Wonky, yeah.
Like, and it sounded after the fact, even the writers and directors had different understandings of how that worked.
They kept having different answers for questions. Like, guys, this is important. You should know what's going on here.
But so yeah, that's I think that's a good discussion of destiny, free will, and the multiverse.
It's a mess.
It's a mess.
And again, it should be because those are complicated, big questions.
Yeah, I think there's a reason that we humans can't interfere with these things much.
And I think if you're going to be from a writing point of view, I think we need to figure out the deep, I guess I'll say theological roots of what you're writing before you just throw it in there and have to figure out, okay, what are the consequences of this?
Yeah.
Dream realm.
Wish realm.
Wish realm. Which not wish well. Anyway.
It was a mess.
It was a mess. Yeah, because it can easily become a mess. I mean, you can kind of do the Doctor Who wave your hand thing, but then you basically have said that, I don't know, you got to do that.
I mean, that becomes your style. I mean, Doctor Who, that's the style of Doctor Who, which is fine. It's semi-fairy tale-ish.
But you can say a lot of important things and some very interesting things by just knowing what the back pinnings are. Is that right?
Undercurrents?
Underpinnings.
Okay.
The underpinnings of these things are, whether it's just supposed to be for fun or whether it has more serious ramifications.
Yep.
So, and go watch Loki.
Yeah, it's worth it.
So, all right. I guess for that, we'll go to soundtrack.
For my soundtrack today, I looked at a couple different video games, Chrono Cross, like Nick mentioned. There's also a Legend of Zelda Link Between Worlds, where I think he did some similar jumping between worlds thing. But I wound up just searching for Dimension, as in alternate dimensions on OC Remix. And I found this obscure game called Zool, Ninja of the Nth Dimension, which is
a great title.
It is a great title. I guess this was a Commodore Amiga game.
Okay.
That's probably why you never heard of it. But this is a remix by a guy called Fark from looks like he's Norwegian.
Okay.
And the name of this remix is Ninja Godteri, which is Norwegian for ninja candy.
Ninja candy. Nice.
Yep. Enjoy.
Hello, this is Nick. I just wanted to pop in and tell you about a solo podcast I'm starting called In a Perfect World. Despite the fact that we have access to more books, movies, comics, TV shows, and other stories than in any time in human history, I think it's important to bring a spotlight on all the stories that we don't have, all the stories that we should have had. So we'll talk to scholars about Dostoevsky's unwritten sequel to The Brothers Karamazov, and about C.S. Lewis's unfinished Dark Tower novel, because everyone knows that a writer's best book is the one he didn't write. We'll also explore Hollywood's wrangling and idiotic executives. In an early episode, I praised the leaked, "this is way better than what we got" script to Rise of Skywalker. And we'll also explore, why wasn't Rey Obi-Wan's daughter? I mean, seriously. We'll also dig into the failures, misjudgments, illnesses, betrayals, world events, and just plain bad timing that prevented the creation of all the stories we really wanted. And most importantly, we'll scour social media for hot takes on what storytellers everywhere are doing wrong and how they could just fix it if they'd only listen. The goal of In a Perfect World is simple: to inform you of all the entertainment and art that we would have had, should have had, in a perfect world. In the end, it's a podcast about imagination, regret, and futility. Because nothing shows our thankfulness for the divine spark of creativity, the hard work of the artist, than grumbling about what we might have had in a perfect world. Coming to a podcatcher near you.
Well, that was nice ear candy. Anyways,
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
It is not time for pun times, guys. Sorry. But it is time for... What If? All right, so we've decided, we're talking multiverse. What If seems to fit pretty well.
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, we've been, it's a whole Marvel thing. They've got a What If show coming up, which they stole our name.
Come on now, just like they used it on the comics 20 years ago, but still.
Yeah. Royalties.
But we thought to do the sort of, let's bring lots of alternate versions from all their alternate dimensions of famous characters into one place to solve a crisis.
Yeah, because there's been lots of different versions of some famous literary characters. And so what if they actually all existed?
And I guess to preface, we'll plead ignorance. We don't know all versions of some of these characters.
Right.
We have different realms of knowledge. I know, I don't know how many Robin Hood movies, for example, there are. And I've seen only a handful. So...
And we will also admit that we were having a trouble coming up with some female characters for this. I know there's lots of different versions of Jane Eyre and Elizabeth Bennet, but we're guys. We don't know them.
I've read the original, but that's about all I got. And seen the 6-hour movie.
Yeah. And a lot of the other ones, like Anne of Green Gables, you really only need the one movie. I guess Netflix did an adaptation
which
of
apparently my wife did not like.
Yeah. So
she just stopped. Yeah.
So anyway, some of these, there's just only once. But anyway, who's our first character here?
I think we need to bring all the Scrooges from all the Victorian Londons or wherever they are.
Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yes.
Are we including the Bill Murray? I don't know the Scrooge.
If you know him very well, yes.
Okay, well, I won't mention him then because I don't know him.
Oh, okay then.
Okay, so I've got a gold generator here from a website called SammyMontoya.com.
Okay.
So I'm just going to click this button that's called the new goal. Apparently, these Scrooges are working together to retrieve a stolen thing.
A stolen thing.
That's very vague.
Wow.
Now, there's also a button here to say to accomplish this goal, they must do something to retrieve
let's
it.
click it. Let's see what happens.
Okay, let's see. I get to accomplish this goal, they must be forgiven.
Wow.
That seems very Scrooge.
I like this. So are these, funny thing about talking about alternate Scrooges, are they all coming in pre or post Ghosts?
I
mean, there's it doubles the number of Scrooges.
I mean,
maybe it come pre and post of each one.
That could be very confusing. I mean, if they're all post, this is a very jolly bunch because post redemption Scrooge is a very joyful fellow.
That's true in all the cases. That doesn't seem all that exciting.
True.
Maybe they need to be forgiven by Marley's ghost.
Question is, do they all have to visit their own ghosts, or do they just visit one Scrooge's ghosts, or Or
You mean all the Marley ghosts?
yeah, do all the Marley ghost visits all the Scrooges?
So the thing they need is some sort of device to bring all the Marley ghosts from all the alternate dimensions together.
In order to teach them how to be forgiven.
You know what the nice thing about this is? Between, say Scrooge McDuck and Muppet Scrooge,
Michael Caine.
yeah, and some of the other traditional Scrooges, they have a lot of money.
that is a good point.
Spared no expense.
Spared no expense to get forgiven.
So they can hunt the world. I feel like, okay, this is not helping them, but I feel like this is the start of some sort of kind of awesome comic where they like just fund expeditions to find this MacGuffin that will bring all the different Marley ghosts to them so they can ask forgiveness.
They're the ghost hunter Scrooges. What do they call it? Like they go to like mansions all over the world trying to find where Marley's ghost wound up at.
It's an amazing show. Just all these Scrooges. I feel like you'd have to have most of them be pros, but they have a few pre-was like, what are we doing? Like, seriously? That's me now?
They drag him along and they're like, no, you're gonna be way better for us. We could just find Marley. He's around here somewhere.
And run around in Victorian England. I'm going to assume that's our setting, that we're not going to one of the other settings.
I guess so. Yeah.
I would watch this. It would be amazing. Just like a limited series, like 10 episode, either like graphic novel or Netflix series.
I like how we've kind of forgotten about the retrieving a stolen thing.
That's just their mission,
yeah, I guess retrieving. I guess somehow Marley's ghost got stolen, or he's just missing.
Oh yeah, I guess find the thing was the thing to summon the ghost. Like they had to go find an artifact or something. Maybe like
okay,
they go find.
I got you.
Marley's old watch, or I don't know.
Okay, I got you. No, that makes sense. Okay, cool. I think I'm satisfied with that one.
That went way better than I thought.
Okay. Well, who's our next character?
Let's go ahead and throw in. Let's do Peter Pan.
Peter Pan. Alrighty.
I guess it's still Victorian England, but a little later.
A little later, more like Edwardian. Yeah, that was that after Victoria.
No, I just like saying cool words with Ian after.
I don't remember. I'm trying to remember now because J.M. Barrie was.
He was later than Dickens.
Yeah, he was certainly later. It was like the turn of the 19th century, 19th into the 20th century when that was done, because there were actual films made during his lifetime of Peter Pan. But I don't remember when Victoria died.
Yeah, I don't. She lived forever.
Yeah. Anyway, so these Peter Pans.
Okay, what are some Peter Pans we have? We need the Disney one.
Well, the Disney one, the elfin guy. I think it'd be funny to include like one of the females who played him on Broadway.
Yeah, sounds good.
Like who is drat. I'm trying to think of the one Muppet Show guest star who I think did it. Oh, blonde. She has a big smile. What's her name?
That's not enough for me.
Short hair.
Well, yeah, she's Peter Pan.
Oh, well. Well, Mary Martin was one. This is not the one I'm thinking of. But anyway.
Do we include the Once Upon a Time Peter Pan? The evil?
The evil Peter Pan? I think we have to. And
then
ways.
You mentioned John Williams. Not John Williams. Sorry, Robin Williams.
Robin Williams. So you have your old Peter Pan.
Your old Peter Pan.
I want to also throw in, just because this movie needs more love, there was a 2003 Peter Pan movie.
I've seen that one. Yeah.
Which I think was DreamWorks.
It was good.
It's really good. And one where they actually cast a boy around, I don't know, 12 years old, 10, I don't know. Which, for my money, that's the best live action version of Peter Pan out there. In fact, I think in some ways I like it better than the Disney one. It's
probably more accurate.
Yeah, more accurate to the book. And yeah, man, the book is surprisingly rich, ideas-wise. But anyway, their goal is to get someone or something on place on time.
Wow. Speak English?
Someone/something on place on. That doesn't sound very Peter Pan-y. Let's do something else. To get rid of something. Okay. To accomplish this goal, they must escape animal attack.
Oh, well, okay then. I think we know what animal attack that is.
Probably the
weasel.
Well done.
Crocodile.
Crocodile
is the correct answer.
What are they trying to get rid of is the question.
Wendy. No,
Only the evil Peter Pan would want to do that. The Once Upon a Time Peter Pan.
Yeah.
Let's see. They want to get rid of... To accomplish this, they have to escape an animal attack. So that means, is this something big? Because otherwise they could just throw it in the water.
Yeah.
So
maybe they need to get rid of the entire Jolly Roger.
I was going to say, pick Captain Hook's pirate ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. While avoiding the crocodile.
Yes.
Honestly, I feel like this is not going to be a hard task for the Peter Pan. They just
go get some fairies and mermaids and you're set.
Or just, ignite all the gunpowder on the ship.
Well, they probably really enjoy that, actually.
They would probably think that was great.
What they really should get rid of is their shadow.
Well, but they
like their shadow.
They like their shadow, so
most of them. So yeah, I guess they just blow it up. But I mean, would they do it? Here's the problem. Here's where the conflict comes in. Okay. It's like it'd be more of like a comedy sketch because it's Peter Pan. They each want to light the fuse.
That's true. They all want to be the one in charge.
Yes, there's gonna be a lot of infighting.
Mm-hmm. I feel like
all the Tinkerbells with them.
Oh man, that'd be mass chaos for sure.
They just fight each other.
I mean, I feel like
would the Tinkerbells fight each other? Or would they all understand each other? Be like, okay, let's go. I feel like they would go and be the Peter Pans and just do it themselves.
I feel like they might fight. I mean, it depends on your. I mean, if you're talking like the original Tinkerbell only has room in her head for like one emotion at any given time.
That's true.
So if the other Tinkerbells are kind of like that, and the Disney one was somewhat like that.
Yeah, the Disney one was like that. Mm-hmm. The Once Upon a Time one was not.
No, neither was Julia Roberts from Hook. Actually, I feel like the Robin Williams, depending on where Robin
Maybe
Williams,
like fatherly
Peter Pan
to him, kind of, wouldn't he?
Kind of, although I also feel like he'd also be fighting off, keeping an eye on the evil Peter Pan, because that guy is a total jerk.
He is a total jerk.
And actually a lot more conniving than most other Peter Pans.
So we got like this dramedy going on where most of the younger Peter Pans are all fighting each other. It's hijinks, whatever. And meanwhile, we have like this cat and mouse game between Robin Williams and evil
Peter Pan. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So it's like a Hitchcock film.
Kind of. Yeah, I could see that.
Okay. Be a good story. Is there a different sort of feel of Peter Pan from the Starcatchers, or is that basically like J.M. Barrie version?
Oh, that's an interesting.
I've not read it, but I think you had.
He's
right?
not the one for the Peter and the Starcatchers. He's not as immature as the original J.M. Barrie one. I would say he's actually a little bit more responsible. Although, I mean, the idea is that he's slowly becoming the Peter Pan from the Barrie books, so he probably does become a little less. But it depends on where he's coming in from. So,
but I think I could see a story like that where you have basically just cheap by the dozen sort of hijinks plus cat mouse game on top of it.
Yeah, I like it. Okay,
good.
All right, who's our next one?
Let's do Alice.
Alice from Wonderland.
From Wonderland.
Okay,
we got a variety. We got Mental Institute Alice.
From
Once Upon a Time again.
Once Upon a Time. Okay. I was going to say, are we talking young Alice or are we talking older Alice?
That's older Alice.
Okay. So like, how old is she? Like 20s?
Maybe. Yeah.
Something like that. And there's the one from the live action Disney movies, which I've never seen.
Yes.
She's also in her 20s
yeah,
there,
she's
right?
older. Yep.
Then we have traditionally young animated Alice who's like 10 years old. And most other versions of Alice, she's like 10, right?
Yeah, I think so. And then isn't there's like a hardcore Alice somewhere, or is that just something we made up at some point?
It's
seems like I saw a sci-fi.
I don't know.
Channel
I'm gonna have to actually lean on you for this because you know Alice in Wonderland way better than I do.
Well,
I tend to stay away from Wonderland as much as I can.
See, the live action one's just not as good. They're too normal.
They're too high fantasy-ish instead of
exactly.
Like
there was a sci-fi Alice who was sort of like a modern
steampunky
sort of Alice. Yeah. So, but what are they doing?
Okay, so according to our goal generator, their goal is to finding out what a picture is of. Basically,
okay, so they have a photograph.
They have a photo. They're trying to figure out what it is. In order to accomplish this, they must impress someone.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, I'm assuming they're going back to Wonderland.
Seems likely.
It seems likely.
Yeah. So
they need to impress. I mean, you always got the Queen of Hearts.
Of course, the question here is what version of Wonderland are they in?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I mean, Wonderland is always kind of crazy. I mean,
but there's more rules in some of them than others.
Yeah, the Once Upon a Time was a bit more tamed than some Wonderland.
I mean, the book version, the most crazy.
Sure.
So let's go to the book.
Okay. Okay, so who do they have to impress? One of the queens?
One of the queens. We could do that. You can impress a Jabberwocky.
Okay. Ooh,
though the funny thing is, the book Jabberwocky is not really It's just in the poem. I mean, other versions have made it into a character.
What about the Cheshire Cat? Seems
I
like
think maybe interesting and impressed. I
and
like that.
He seems to often be the one who knows things that are going on.
Yeah.
Okay, so how would the Alice's work to impress the Cheshire Cat?
I feel like the older ones would be rather annoyed with the younger ones, and keep trying to leave them.
Yeah.
So I feel like unfortunately, like 2 younger ones probably like just hold hands and wander randomly into weird situations, just like Alice in Wonderland normally, and they won't have anything to do with this story.
Okay.
Except maybe the Wonderland version might care enough for him because she was all.
What do you mean the Wonderland version?
Sorry, the Once Upon a Time version,
Okay.
which if you have not watched, guys, is actually worth watching as a standalone season.
It is. You don't have to watch any other Once Upon a Time to enjoy Once Upon a Time in Wonderland.
But she was kind of like maligned for believing in Wonderland, and so I could see her kind of taking pity on these younger versions of herself.
Yeah, I could see it. I could see that. Because she was kind-hearted and
and I think she suffered a lot for her experience.
Actually, fun fact: did you know the young Alice in the Once Upon a Time in Wonderland was played by I forget her real life name, but 11, Millie Bobby Brown.
Okay,
before she was 11.
Before she was 11.
Fun fact. Anyway, side tangent.
Was she actually 11?
I don't know if she was actually 11. Good question. 11 years old. I don't know.
Okay, so but impression of Cheshire Cat. The Cheshire Cats. He's going to send them on random missions.
Basically.
For no good reason. And you'll laugh at them when they come back and be like, haha, fine, here, I'll tell you what this picture's about.
Yeah, basically.
And basically put them in random situations that are probably life-threatening and or particularly strange.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to imagine what it would be like without just repeating stuff from the book. But then you're not, you don't run through the
exact same things every single time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't think we need to get super specific here. I like basic.
I feel like the older kick butt version is going to be like, have to be kind of, maybe she becomes softened and remembered as why it was like to be young, and the young ones are just like, this is so weird, curiouser and curiouser. And then they all go back home and tell their people, and no one believes them, and
they're like, why did we
do that all over again?
Because this
White
picture
rabbit.
that picture was that important, apparently.
Dinah, come on.
I mean, honestly, Alice goes chasing a white rabbit on a whim into Wonderland. So yeah, she could be very stubborn if she wants to find something out.
Yeah, or walk through a mirror.
Mirror. There you go. Okay, let's do at least 2 more.
Okay, do you have a preference? You want a Santa, a King Arthur?
Let's do Santa.
Okay, let's do Santa.
You want to do you? Okay.
Well, I was going to give you Robin Hood because we haven't done Robin Hood yet.
Oh, true.
Let's do Robin Hood first.
Okay, we'll do Robin Hood first.
Okay. So let's do Robin Hood.
Okay, so where are we pulling here from? We got the.
You're Robin Hood, so.
Well, okay, so that means we have to include Errol Flynn, who's like the perfect Robin Hood.
Got tights.
Carrie Elwes, okay, we'll include him. He'll be the
jester,
smarty pants, the jester. We've got a fox, which kind of weirds out the other Robins, probably. From the Disney movie.
Why has Disney not made a live action version of that yet?
Don't encourage them. I think they might try.
Yeah.
Who else do we have? Sure, we'll throw in Russell Crowe, even though he's a really boring Robin Hood.
That's the super historical one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all grim and gray.
Yeah.
Actually,
I always remember the guy from Hood. Have you read Hood, the Stephen Lawless book? Oh, it was interesting.
I actually watched a really great YouTube video essay recently about the Disney Robin Hood and how all the Robin Hood movies after it, with the exception of possibly Men in Tights, kind of ruined it. Because no one else after that did a really colorful Robin Hood. They all went for the grim and realistic thing.
Oh, interesting.
The one he never mentioned, which is kind of a foot in both camps, I say, is the BBC Robin Hood. Do you remember that one? I think I remember Natasha watching that.
Yes. It's been a while, but yeah, that was kind of a fun. It was like Merlin, but Robin Hood.
Yeah, basically. I would say that was a little middle ground between being real realistic and having some of the fun. Because he did have fun with his Merry Men, I'd say, even though it wasn't quite as colorful as the storybook Errol Flynn style.
No, but it was certainly much more fun oriented. So what do they need to do?
All right. So according to the generator, their goal is to find a hidden place or thing. Which they need to do by winning a game.
Oh, there we go.
So we're doing
badminton.
We're doing the Robin Hood badminton tournament.
That'd be awesome. That'd be amazing.
Should we actually do badminton or should we actually go to the archery?
Oh, I'm super conflicted right now.
Okay, well, what are
I feel like they'd want to do archery, and then the Carrie Ools would like sign up for badminton instead.
Carrie Elwes?
Ellis, sorry. Yeah.
I knew who you meant, but okay. So what are they trying to find? We'll go with the badminton because I'm too amused by that now. What are they trying to find? Actually, like a treasury. It seems like that'd be a normal thing, like
some sort of like
the key to the royal vaults to steal all the money or something.
Yeah. Let's do that. That's very traditional.
That's very traditional. Well, first off, Russell Crowe is going to be really out of his element.
He's just gonna be grouching around, and like every shot of him is just like gray and black, and like just raining on top of him all the time,
covered in mud, because he get the muddiest court.
It'd be great, like he just dives and there's mud all over him with his badminton racket.
That's perfect. Meanwhile, the fox is just kind of bouncing all over the place, having a great old time, and I think even Carrie Elwes is.
Oh, he's probably enjoying that.
Oh, yeah, he's loving it. I meant Errol Flynn. I think Errol Flynn is probably having a great time, too. He's smiling away.
So is this partner badminton or singles?
I think they probably each enroll, but eventually they come up to each other. So I'm going to say singles, but like it's a tournament style.
It's a tournament style. So then they're face each other.
So eventually there's no one left but Robin Hoods. And Russell Crowe loses pretty quickly because he's just not nearly as nimble as the rest of them. Otherwise, it's a toss-up. I don't know if I could
probably
pick
between
the
the Fox and Errol Flynn, isn't it?
Probably. That's what more my heart would lend me to say.
But any way you cut it, they win.
Any way they cut it, they win. They fix this whole tournament.
Now, is there enough Maid Marians for them all?
Good
or
question.
Or just the winner gets the Maid Marian? Unless it's the animal, and then you're like, I'll wait for a human.
We'll let the listener decide that one.
Okay. All right. Finally, should we do Santa?
Let's do Santa.
There's a lot of Santas.
There's a lot of Santas. I feel like we have to include the Tim Allen Santa.
Yes.
Because he's a pretty classic one. I think we need the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the claymation Santa.
Yes, with or without the gout.
Gout?
No, there's one of the shows when he has the gout, he's at home, and then it's not Rudolph, but it's the same Santa in one of the other.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that the same Santa showed up in another thing. You mean like the guy who was skinny and then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he's in one of the other.
The other Rankin Bass things? Okay, I didn't know that.
Okay, we'll just do the Rudolph. We won't worry about the gout. We used to make fun of it. We're like, what?
I don't remember that at all.
The gout.
Okay, so we got those two. Who else do we need? Who's another famous Santa? Guess we could do Nick Frost from that one Doctor Who episode.
Sure. Should we go ahead to the Miracle 34th Street?
Okay, sure. The black and white one?
Yeah.
I don't know the color.
Yeah, no, black and white be fine.
Okay.
We could play. Have you seen the Christmas Chronicles on Netflix? Probably not because I have kids.
Oh,
but it's
I think I did. That was a recent movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, with Kurt Russell.
Okay, sure.
He's interesting. He's very like a little more forthright, I guess, or like I don't know. He's an interesting version.
I'm trying to actually now that you mention that, it's like I think I saw that, but like was that 2 years ago?
Yeah,
or something?
I think it was 2 years. I watched the second, which the second one is not as good, but we had kids, so we were like, "Hell, let's watch this." We liked the first one. Let's watch the second.
Okay, yeah, I guess I don't remember that one super well, but anyway,
I don't remember the Santa from Elf.
I don't either. I don't think I've actually ever watched Elf all the way through.
All our audience is like mad at us now.
I know. I mean, it shouldn't surprise people that we tend to.
I've seen it
follow
once
the
or
crowds.
something like that, but
yeah,
my sister Haley would be like, "Watch it like nonstop."
Yeah, basically. I know there's been like a million versions, but those are the ones I feel most familiar with.
Yeah, we'll just go with those. That's enough Santas for now.
Yeah, okay.
We can always get.
We might come.
No, we need
more.
one like mall Santa,
okay,
like the one from Home Alone or something.
Yeah, he does see a Santa at Home Alone, doesn't he?
Yeah, he looked like Santa's getting into like his car. And
oh, okay, yeah, that guy. Okay, I remember him now. Yeah, gotcha. Okay, what does your protagonist want to do?
Deliver a present. Oh wait, what?
He just says eat. Eating.
No.
Let's do something else.
Yeah, I think that's kind of just normal Santa.
Yeah. Okay, he wants to escape an animal attack.
Okay.
Actually, we had that before, didn't we?
Oh, I guess so.
for it to accomplish this goal. I guess these things add things. Okay, what's your predict? Santa wants to avoid someone
Okay.
by hiding something intangible, either the info, the time.
Oh, real
something
quick.
like
We got to add one more Santa.
that. Okay.
We need Santa from the Santa and Ice Cream Bunny. just sitting there on the
Okay.
beach and the most useless.
The most useless Santa there is.
Yes.
Yeah,
please.
okay. Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Well, it won't be hard for that guy to avoid someone. He can't go anywhere.
With his soiled pants. Anyway, so he has they're trying to avoid someone?
Avoid someone by hiding something intangible.
Hiding something intangible.
In like the info or the time or something. If you
My
want, I can
love.
give Santa an antagonist
Sure.
whose goal is to find a home or a place to live.
So I think he's trying to hide from Mrs. Claus. And find a new bachelor pad
What?
by hiding his love from her.
That's terrible.
It's just a temporary thing.
You just need some space. Is
He
that
just
the-
needs some space. Look, he has to deal with kids all night for 1 year.
and elves pretty much the rest
He
of
just
the
wants to go on vacation. Okay, it's just a vacation.
Okay, fair enough.
But she has a regular way they do things.
Okay.
And he just, not all of them. Well, all of them? One of them? And he hires the other ones to help him? I don't know how this works.
Maybe Santa has recruited other Santas to basically take his place.
To fool
The fool Mrs. Claus
fool
for a little
Mrs.
while.
Claus.
Yeah.
with some sort of North Pole magic that seems to disguise or change whatever.
Well, I mean, he mostly looks the same.
Mostly. But Mrs. Claus would know.
Yeah, it's like you look like you're like a foot tall. The the animatronic version.
Like, you're really jerky in your motion. What's. You're very rosy cheeked today. I don't know how this goes.
I don't know either. Exactly. He's hiding the fact that he wants some time away. He just wants to.
So which one is taking the vacation? He normally has to take a staycation, okay? And he's
Right.
sick of staycations. He's going to the
I
South
guess-
Pole.
I guess let's say it's the Tim Allen one, if only because I know who the Mrs. Claus is in that
Okay.
case. That's Juliet.
Yeah. And he has problems like this.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, he has real life sort of problems.
Okay. So
Maybe he's going on a hunting trip. That seems like some sort of thing Tim Allen
it
would
does,
do.
yes. With Al Borland.
Okay, so he recruits
Various Santas.
They take I
through
don't
some
know.
sort of weird machine. He just brings them from another
They come
dimension.
in,
From the
yeah. I feel like the Kurt Russell one would get along fairly well.
he'd be a little like, yeah, I think he'd be a little more a little more like in your face, I think, than the Tim Allen one.
Okay.
I mean, just kind of, not bright, just kind of like superhero-ish, just like, he's like, hi, sort of thing.
Fair enough.
So he's like, wow, you're really into it right now.
And then Juliet would be very confused when Nick Frost comes in and suddenly Santa has a British accent.
Yeah. He's
It's
like,
like-
maybe he's practicing for the children.
He's practicing for his Father Christmas.
Yeah.
Tour duty.
Yeah. The poor ice cream bunny Santa would just sit on the couch and watch TV. It'd be like, hey, bring me some ice cream.
Yep. Yep, you nailed it. That guy's useless.
And quite frankly, the Home Alone Santa wouldn't be much better.
Honestly, he'd be really he'd be the one that had the most sitcom like sort of mishaps because
Yeah.
he's really out of his element because he's not really supposed to be.
He's not a Santa.
He's not a Santa at all. So he's like, yeah, sure. How you doing?
So this would be, it seemed like we said with most multiverse, all ours tend to gravitate towards the silly.
Yeah,
But
That's the
I like it.
I think it's the best way to do this sort of exercise.
So Tim Allen gets a good hunting trip.
He comes back. I feel like by the time he comes back, Juliet's seen through all
Yeah.
this.
Do you think that like the other ones like they just like it here? They don't leave. Like they just keep stacking Santas.
I think
and like there's like one in every room by the end, and they're all acting like.
I think Mrs. Claus finds however Santa did this originally, and she brings other Mrs. Clauses in, and they basically backfire. This is all basically an elaborate I Love Lucy episode.
Yes.
Mrs. Claus brings other Mrs. Clauses in to kind of teach
and
them
no one
a
can tell the
lesson.
difference between anyone else. Everyone ends up happily ever after.
And then they have a Merry Christmas because
And everyone falls deeply in love again with their Mrs. Claus.
basically because they're like, man, that other Mrs. Claus is crazy, but I love you, Mrs. Claus, my Mrs. Claus. Yeah.
Yep.
So there you go.
So we just call it keeping up with the clauses.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I enjoyed that. Those
Yeah,
were good.
That was fun. So we're running long, so we can't get to our other characters. But let's tell listeners, what are some other characters that you could do this kind of what if magic at home?
Hey, please send us an email, send us an audio clip of you just telling us this wonderful show that or book or someone should write. So we had Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes.
Lots of Sherlock Holmes.
You could combine Benedict Cumberbatch with like
A rat.
Yeah. Basil of Baker Street. You're in my mind.
We thought about doing Frodo, but we weren't sure enough versions.
I mean, you've got Elijah Wood. You've got the animated
The
version.
weird animated version.
Weird animated, which I guess there's actually two sort of.
Well, then there's the Return of the King version.
Yeah. So that'd be slightly different.
But I don't know. We thought Lois Lanes. There's lots of Lois Lanes over the years.
True.
James Bond. It'd be fun to have. It's like having all the doctors together.
Yes, that actually would be a lot of fun.
There'd be a lot of
I feel
crazy driving.
I feel like the Daniel Craig and Timothy Dalton, I want to say. Well, I don't know. I've not seen the Timothy Dalton one long. I remember watching License to Kill when I was way too young to see it and getting really freaked out by it. So I don't know. In my head, he's a very brutal Bond, but I don't know that for sure.
The problem is if there's only one female lead, it's going to cause problems.
Yeah.
And Sean Connery. Anyways,
Yeah.
King Arthur.
That could be interesting.
That'd be a lot. There's a lot of different King Arthur.
There's a lot you could
versions.
choose from, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't bother with the Once Upon a Time version. He's just going to run away.
I so want a gif of that.
The Once Upon a Time King Arthur just hightailing it through the woods.
It was the funniest. So if you don't know what we're talking about, Once Upon a Time had this. He was like a cowardly, backstabbing King Arthur. But there's this one scene where he like basically just turns and runs like a cartoon villain. It was like the funniest. You could almost hear like the Flintstones feet in at least my head.
At least that's the way we remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so quick. It was
So funny. I wish I could find it. Anyways, Tim, I guess we should probably get out of here. I guess we have as much time as we want. I don't know if time works here or not. I don't understand that.
maybe, although I thought that statue looked really different a minute ago.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, do you recognize that guy?
No.
Okay, well, there does seem to be a lot of tumult around here. So, yeah, let's wrap things up. Remember, folks, you can listen to our podcast on a number of different platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher, and also on our website, derailedtrainsofthought.blogspot.com. Leave us a comments on our site, if you will, and let us know how you listen to it.
Feel free. We are also on Facebook and Twitter. You can get a hold of us either of those places with your wonderful cross-universe stories. You can email us at derailedtrains@gmail.com.
And feel free to leave us a review on one of those podcatchers. Again, we'd love to hear what you think of the show. If there's anything you'd like to see us add to it, we'd love to hear that too.
And always, we've name-dropped Lost and Once Upon a Time a couple times this episode. Follow our sister podcast, The Weekly Hijack, where we discuss various
TV
shows.
Both of those, actually. But
Yes. Currently Lost.
Currently Lost. There's a lot more Lost than Once Upon a Time at this point.
So before we make like tree and get out of here, I will introduce my soundtrack. I started trying to be all like, fate and other things with my searching. And then I was just thinking, Fortuna, because it sounds very ominous and like, it's fate, it's fortune. And then I thought of this wonderful song from Star Fox, remixed by DJ Pretzel, called Fortuna Favors the Funk, which is just a great song all around. I hope you enjoy, and it'll just leave you with more ear candy as we get out of here.
I can't believe we haven't gotten to Star Fox on this podcast before now.
It has nothing to do with multiverses.
Except Fortuna.
Fortuna, which is just the plant name in this case. So
Fun stuff.
enjoy. And until next time, this has been Nick.
And this is Tim.
Adios.
Bye-bye.